Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday and we have a barre class this morning. We are going to start on the floor. We kind of go back and forth with where we start. And this morning it's going to be on the mat. So find a comfortable space and grab some of your props, a ball for between the inner thighs, and maybe some dumbbells for any arm and shoulder movements we do. And then go ahead and lie down on the mat. I'll give you a couple of moments to do that. You can stretch out at first, and before you place the ball or do anything, we will do some movements through the feet and the ankles. Make sure that your head is comfortable. It might mean putting a little bit of blanket underneath or spacing between you and the floor. You want the head to feel like you're not straining the back of the neck. And also, as part of this, the shoulders to feel like they're not pressing into the base of your neck from behind or pulling on your throat from in front. And then when you're all comfy into the ground, your legs are stretched. We start with that little rocking through the base of the heels, pulling the toes up, flexing the feet, and then pointing the toes away. Nice and gentle, easy peasy. Pulling toes up and pointing toes away. You'll feel a little shifting of your body weight. Don't try and resist that. So as your toes rock, you might shift up and down a little bit too. Pause in that midpoint where the toes are lengthened upward, and then roll the feet side to side, both left and both right. And here too, you'll probably feel a little bit of motion in other body parts. As long as it's not large or violent, you don't need to worry about it. Just play along. Take that rocking side to side into a circling through the feet, both feet moving in the same sense. And then go the other direction as well. After you've completed both directions of circling, return to center and just bend your knees. We're going to keep the feet a little bit wide, about the outer width of your hips, and do a couple more motions through the legs before we start with more definitive core breathing. So with the knees bent, I'll give you a little visual here. We go ahead and drop them side to side, both to the right or both to the left. Here too, you'll probably feel a little rolling across the back of the pelvis, probably greater than before, and that's fine. A little bit of swaying as the pelvis rolls. We want to keep the bottom of the ribs stable, feeling maybe a little twist in the muscles of your waist. And then return to center. Extend your arms forward and hug around your chest. And you can hold arms or elbows if you don't reach your shoulders. And we resume that little rocking side to side. Now, ideally, the pelvis is a little bit more quiet. We're still twisting at the waist, and the movement is being generated upstream toward the height of your ribs. We'll return to center just briefly and cross the new arm on top. It'll probably feel a little funky, and resume the rolling side to side. A nice stretch for the space between the shoulder blades as well as for the length of your ribs. When you've done that a couple of times, return to center, release your arms down by your sides, and bring your feet more into line with your hips. Quieter now, we let the shoulders rest. And as the weight of the head is supported by the ground, we turn side to side through the neck. So important. I know I say this every time, but it's a reflection of how important it is. So important not to force this turning motion of the neck. And some of us might have a smaller range. Don't worry about that. We just want to feel the movement of the head over top that second vertebra. We're almost at the top of the spine now. And then return to a centered position. Finally, we're going to nod up and down. Weight of the head is still resting into the mat. And we're just pivoting over the top vertebra in our spine. A smooth motion forward and back As you drop the chin down, I'd like you to think of this as a lift of the base of your skull up, sliding it against the mat. And you can either return through neutral or possibly into a little bit of cervical extension. But again, honor the state of your neck. Don't push. And then finally return the head to center. Place the ball between your knees and feel a settling through the bottoms of your feet. Everything is resting in a forward sort of orientation. So your gaze is on the ceiling above you, and your eyes are centered, your pupils rather are centered in your eyes. And as you breathe in, you feel the breath entering the whole front of you. We're using imagery here, of course. And as you exhale the breath, I want you to feel it moving through the back of your body into ground. Again, imagery. Inhales moving through the pores of the front of your body, and exhales spreading through the back into the ground underneath. One more time, feeling that comfortable relationship with ground. And then we start to apply the more traditional cueing and breath connections to each phase of the breath. We begin by looking at that exhale. As you exhale, feel a spreading into length up and down. Sorry, my voice is a little rough this morning. Each exhale, that spreading that you felt against the ground earlier, I want you to feel up and down through your length, from the soles of the feet to the crown of the head. And at the bottom of your exhale, at that greatest opening from the soles of your feet to your crown, experience a little gathering inward across the bones at the bottom of the pelvis. And of course, I'm talking about your Kegel. Continue to mindfully bring all of those connections to bear. I'm thinking more specifically about the sitting bones side to side, and also the front and back of the pelvis through pubic bones and tailbone. Know that there's a muscle that connects the front and back of the pelvis. We're going to exhale and activate that specifically, not so that we flatten the pelvis, but just so we stabilize the relationship of the tailbone to the pubic bones. And then on the inhale, feel the energy or support from that connection drawing up into the body toward a spot just below and behind the navel, so deep to the surface. Exhale is before. We find our lengthening, we become aware of the presence of pelvic floor. And then that very specific connection from pubic bone to tailbone, we think of lifting up and in as we also breathe in. Do this a couple of times, and I'm going to stay quiet so you have space to feel and think about this. One more breath out and in. On the next exhale, make an imprint. And as you imprint, squeeze the ball just a little bit, not a lot. Stay in your imprint and inhale, lifting pelvic floor support inward. On the next exhale, feel the pelvis moving through the boundary of the inner thighs as you return to neutral. Do this just twice more. Exhale and imprint. Lengthening and flexing your low spine. Exhale, return to neutral. Feel the connection between lower belly and inner thighs as the pelvis glides into neutral through the space between. One more, please. Now, keeping neutral, you may want to lower or eliminate your head mat. We are no longer moving the spine, although it will rise and lower to the floor. Instead, we're extending the hips, beginning to incorporate legs and feet, which of course is going to be a lot of our focus in standing. Inhale where you are, drawing the Kegel support up into the body. And then as you exhale and lengthen, press down through the soles of your feet from the back of your hips and lift your pelvis from the ground into a bridge. Inhaling at the top. As you exhale and lower, still find length and stability through your posture, resting briefly on the floor. I would like you to do 4 more of these, moving only on the exhale. This time, there's no change in posture, spinal posture. There is simply an articulation through the hips, pelvis gliding up or forward and down or back toward the floor. See if you can find the relevant breath connections to each phase of the breathing and movement. Couple more. Feel longer and more supported each time you land on the ground. Breathing that exhale into the mat. And when you've finished your final one, settle there. You can replace your head mat if you like. We do one more thing on the mat here, and it is for the shoulders and the arms. With or without the weights, extend the arms forward to the ceiling. And we start with some triceps extension. So we have the arms vertical in space, and we're just going to be bending and straightening the elbows. It's a 2-breath pattern that we prepare with an exhale, finding length, feeling posture and ground. And then on the inhale, bend your elbows. Exhale, length, posture, and ground as you straighten the elbows. And go for a set of 6, please. Feel that specific pelvic floor connection across pubic bones and tailbone, right over the bottom of the pelvis. And on your inhale, draw that up and in. There is a physical connection here through a long tendon, right, that moves up into that spot below the navel, behind the surface. Feel all of that and release your low back. Keep the last extension of the elbows, and we open and close the arms to the side using a 2-breath pattern. We'll inhale to spread the arms wide apart and exhale to bring the arms forward to where you started from. If you can do 6 here, go ahead through that movement. And if using weights is not helpful at this point, put them down. Center the top of your arm bones inside the axis of your shoulders and feel a gliding, open and closed. When you finished your last one, we'll prepare for arm extensions overhead. And I like to save this one for a little bit later in our arm warm up, because as we inhale and reach the arms back overhead, you're going to need to allow the bottom of the shoulder blades to widen apart from each other a little bit. Feel the breath moving down between them. As you exhale and return, breath leaves and the bottom points of the shoulder blades tilt toward each other once more. They move apart as you inhale and reach the arms back, making space for the shoulder extension. And then bottom points of the shoulder blades draw together, integrating across the back a little bit more closely when you return the arms. 3 or 4 more. As you return through the arms, you'll feel that connection that you want to apply to a forward bend. As you reach the arms back, you're going to feel the connection that frees up the chest. And then after the last one, lower your arms down. And go ahead and put your weights off to the side. Make your way up to standing. So bring the ball and the weights with you. Take the time to get stuff out from underfoot. I'm going to change where my camera is placed while you do that. And go just a little higher. And even though you have your ball and your other goodies nearby, just leave them off to the side for now. Okay. We're going to have a neutral spacing through the legs, and just do a little bit of a bend into the knees, right? So we still want to track in a parallel way through the legs. We don't have to go super deeply, but go deeply enough that you feel a little forward tilt from the hips. This is kind of like we're in shoulder bridge, right? It's still on the ground. So from here, hands to your lap. On your exhale breath, round through the bottom of the spine. And as you bend forward through the spine, your arms are going to start to reach, right, a little forward, in essence, from the shoulders. Allow a spreading here through the bottom of the shoulder blades. Inhale. We are going to return through neutral on exhale. And on the inhale, draw the bottom of the shoulder blades inward and downward and allow an extension through the top of the chest. Ordinarily, we do this on hands and knees. Release. Not exactly analogous to what we did with shoulder extension on the mat, but related. Exhale, round the spine. Feel the separation between the shoulder blades at the base and a release through the line of your neck. Inhale here, and now exhale, return through neutral. This is like returning your arms, pulling them down or forward, yeah. Feel that integration of the bottom of the shoulder blades. And now we'll inhale and continue to move the shoulder blades together and down to extend the spine. Release and do one more. On your exhale, round. And it's like you're lifting your arms back. Space at the bottom of the shoulder blades, continuity through the curve. Inhale and exhale, return to neutral. It's like you're bringing your arms forward from that shoulder extension. Bottom of the shoulder blades settle and connect. And then inhale, extend through the upper back. Let that go and feel the balance and the placement of the ribs over the pelvis. And finally, exhale and stretch. Now put the ball between the knees, please. Return to that idea of connection between pelvis and ribs and continuity from the soles of your feet to the crown of your head. And we're actually going to start here with a little bit of lift and lower through the heels. Let's have a couple more breaths in place, feeling that exhale spread through your length, finally gathering a little bit across the base of pelvic floor. And then inhale, lift the energy of that support upward and inward. Again, there is a very real physical structure that connects your legs up inside your torso. And do that one more time. Exhale. And then inhale. Exhale one more time, maybe putting a hand on your bar or countertop. And then as you inhale, lift your heels, pressing forward and upward into the balls of the feet. As you exhale, lower your heels. Now your lift and lower doesn't have to be high, right? It's the first thing we're doing with our feet this morning. Well, aside from our little warm up. Inhale, lift your heels. And exhale, lengthen through your ends, float down. Feel a gathering across pelvic floor. And as you inhale and lift, keep the spacing between pubic bones and tailbone and draw up through the muscles in between. Exhale. Please do 4 more. No triggering of the outer front thighs or the hips, right? So we try and keep our hip flexors out of this. A little bit of glute tone is super helpful in eliminating the tendency for the front of the hips to work. One or two more. And feel that unforced, wonderful, strong, flexible support between the pelvis and the ribs so that the last time you land your heels, that connection is entirely intact. And you can bend the knees into your plie, leaning forward from the hips without any disruption in the line of your spinal posture. Exhale, straighten the legs, returning to that fully extended hip position, fully stretched, bottom of the feet, top of the head. Inhale, bend. And exhale, unfold. I always think of this as sort of making accordion pleats, right? Hips, knees, and ankles. And then pulling those accordion pleats out, ironing them flat. Finish the one you're on and do 3 more. The last one will feed into the next sequence, which begins with a releve. You'll exhale, straighten your legs, and with everything pulled long, then inhale and lift your heels. Now exhale, bend your knees. It's our 4-stage movement, sitting the hips down, keeping the spine vertical. Inhale, bend your knees. You were just here. And exhale, stretch your legs. Continuing through the 4 stages. Inhale, lift heels and your kegel. Exhale, bend your knees, continuing to stretch through your height. Inhale, land the heels. And exhale, pull it all long. We have just 4 more of these. Inhale, lifting heels and continuing with your exhale. As you inhale and lower your heels, create that accordion fold in the body, hips, knees, ankles. And then as you exhale, pull it all long, iron it all flat. 2 more, up. Gliding into the bend of the knees. Reaching into the bend of the ankles and the hips. And stretching. 1 more, please. Feeding into the next, we'll lift the heels again. Staying here and feeling everything pulled long and stretched, we'll exhale and squeeze a couple times more through the inner thighs. And without triggering the front or the sides of the hips, feel the inner thighs talking to the lower abs as they also maintain connection through the arches. Hold the last squeeze, and now we do pulses from the top, inhaling to bend the knees a little bit, and exhaling to fully extend through the legs. Bend the knees a little bit, wake up your hamstrings, fully extend through the legs, wake up medial quads. Keep going, and of course, the low abs and the glutes as you extend the knees. Work across the outside of the pelvis in a 3-dimensional way. We've got 3 more to help stabilize. As through the inside, we get our length, pelvic floor. 1 more repetition. Now listen, inhale, lower your heels. And exhale, go to the lowest, deepest point of your squat or your plie. Here, place your hands to your lap for no other reason than to create balance through the shoulders, and feel that you've got that neutral spacing across the top of the ribs. Slide the base of your skull back, and on the next exhale, as you squeeze the ball, Pulse the hips down. Heels remain on the ground. Up a little bit. We do 8 of these. Exhale, pulsing downward. Weight in both feet. Trying to balance the timing of how we bend the knees. Relaxing into the ankles is helpful for that. Finish the one you're on. Do 3 more. With your hands, feel that the muscles in the front of your thighs are still working. Last one. Now listen, place a hand to your support, and on the inhale, lift your heels, bringing your chest up, our last 4-stage movement. Exhale, ooh, stretch it down, stretch it up. Feel how nice that is. Inhale, land gently. Exhale into your deep, deep plie, leaning forward from the hips. Inhale, lift your heels, the spine moving to vertical, and then exhale, pulling long through all of those pleats in the joints. Inhale, land. We have 4 more, a total of 6. Bending. And then elevating the spine as we lift the heels. Stretching, unfolding all of those pleats. And landing. Last 3. Last 2. And last one. Good. Take the ball out from between your inner thighs. My ball's got a flat side, so it kind of rolls. And then we're just going to stand on one leg and do little slow circles around the tops of the other toes. After a couple in one direction, go the other way. Shake out the foot and switch sides right off the bat. So little circles. And after a handful, go the other way. And then stand on the foot that was just circling. And cross the other ankle over, sitting down into a figure 4 stretch. Have a moment or two here. Feel that your body weight is over the inner thigh of your standing leg. And then we take this leg that's off the ground and finally lunge it back into a square position. And then have a breath or two here. I have a bad habit of staring forward and downward at my big toe. Don't let your head and neck do that. You can bend and stretch the back knee a couple of times. And then finally, we'll step the back foot forward. And go ahead and cross other foot over. Sitting down. So the last 2 stretches will repeat on the other side without going through all the foot stuff again. Easing out of tension in the outer hip. Have another breath or so here. And then same thing. You'll uncross and put the lifted foot behind you in a lunge. Try to take the tension out of the toes. And even though we're still keeping a lift through the arch, we don't want to have a lot of gripping into the ground through the sole of the foot. Simply a relationship between ground and the muscles at the bottom. We're going to step forward and then do a slow walk across the sides, right? So like our lunge, we're going to have one leg straight and the other leg bent. Inhale, and then exhale, put that foot on the ground. In essence, making our lunge on the other side. Inhale, lifting the other foot, knee bent, one straight, and then putting it down. So it might just be my own particular brain that's amused or interested in this idea of how you basically have a few given movements that you can do with your legs and your spine. But as you put those movements into different places in space, different contexts in gravity, you can activate different muscles to accomplish that. Keep walking across the sides. I am trying to distract you, but also to give you food for thought, right? So we do this walking across the sides a couple more times. One more time. And then put your right leg into the ground. So like we did, we lunged our right leg back first. We're going to bring our left leg up, right? So if we were in our lunge, right, it's just like this, but we happen to be here. Yeah. Okay. We're going to do a little rounding forward toward this lifted leg and then straightening back up. So I'll give you the side view. Think of orienting yourself over your back leg and maybe with a hand on your bar countertop. We're going to exhale from the middle of the spine, round like a cat. Inhale, and then exhale, lengthen to neutral. And inhale, bring yourself up to your full height. Exhale, round like a cat, moving through the curve of the low spine into flexion of the entire length of it, maintaining the height of the leg. We're working hip flexors through the inner thighs, people. Exhale, begin to release to neutral, and inhale, come to your full height. One more time. Exhale, round. Both halves of the pelvis round. So if your bottom knee bends a little bit, that's fine. Inhale, exhale, begin to neutralize the spine, and then inhale, lift up into full hip extension over the standing leg. And then exhale, put your left foot down. Yeah, makes sense? Go ahead and swing that left hip a little bit. And go both directions. And then you can start your little walking across the sides. We repeat that. Now, as we walk across the sides, of course, you're giving yourself an opportunity to orient over the new leg, where we'll continue. Part of what my goal is for this, do one more each side, is to give you a feeling of maintaining stability in movement. So when you've got that other leg planted, right, we're stable through the line of the inner thighs, like we have our lunge. We'll exhale and feel that not only does the spine move, I can give you a better view here, but as we round through the spine, the pelvis, the low back moves. We're stretching the tailbone under and forward. We hold and inhale, and then exhale, allow the spine to neutralize before inhaling and finally lifting up to our full height. We do two more of these. Exhale, pelvis rounds under as low back flexes and the entire spine curves forward. Hold, breathe in. Exhale, return through neutral and complete it by inhaling and lifting up. Now, the inner part of your hip flexor on that lifted leg side, that right side, should be working like crazy. Feel the relationship of that to the inner thighs or to the lower abs on the same side. Return through neutral, lift up, And put your foot down, swinging through this hip, going in both directions. Shake out the legs. And then let's go ahead and come into a plank against the bar or the wall. So this will feel nice because the hips are extended, and ideally we'll get a chance to stretch this. Maintain your plank line and lean forward into the toes of your feet. Where else would your toes be? But keep your heels on the ground. All right. So with the arms forward, we will inhale and bend the knees a little bit. You're going to return to that sort of hinge forward that you had in your initial squats or plies. And on your exhale, push from your feet, unfolding all the pleats of your accordion and stretching long from the bottom to the top. One more time. Inhale, bend your knees, folding at the ankles, the knees, and the hips. And then exhale, stretch long. A little bit of a kegel at the bottom of that exhale. Now, as you inhale in your plank, bend your elbows, settling in a place where you can breathe for a minute or so. Because we haven't got a lot of movement going on, we have another opportunity to focus on the various core connections to the phases of the breath. And where we start to feel work, perhaps in the arms and the shoulders, or in the extension of the hips, the grounding of the feet, anywhere we start to feel work, we relate that work to our center. Think of that spot just below the navel, very deep behind the surface. We have 2 more rounds of breath here, and that will prepare us for our push-ups. One more exhale. And then on the next inhale, bend the elbows. On the exhale, press away. Try for a set of 8 to 10. A constant connection or press into the hands will help you keep the shoulders engaged in a way that allows for smooth bending and stretching. Connect the work required to the breath and the muscles in your center, and also into the stretch of legs below into ground. About halfway through, use the ground as sort of a secondary fulcrum or support for the levers of the arms and the shoulders. And let the head just be a passenger above. Riding along, 2 more. And 1 more. After you pushed away the last time, widen your stance and pull your hips back. Bending into the knees the amount that you like, right? We are really trying to get a stretch through the back of the hips and the shoulders. Pull long and even through the sitting bones and through the tailbone. And you might nod the head yes or shake it no. Any other movement you want to do here is fine. Eventually, we'll inhale and come up just enough that we can let the arms drop down gently, and exhale, roll down the remainder of the way if you've got further to go. Inhale, bend deeply into the knees, dropping your weight into your feet, and then exhale, push off the legs, beginning to lengthen through the spine. Inhale, complete that lengthening process, standing fully upright, and then exhale, sigh. Okay. So find your dumbbells or your weights. They might be cans of soup. And we're going to do just a little bit of work for the shoulders. If you like, you can have a ball between your knees as we stand upright and work the arms. It's just an option for connection. All right, whatever you're using or not using, we all need to get on our line and find the breath here. We'll start with some simple biceps with the inside of the elbows and wrists facing forward. That puts a nice open rotation in the shoulders themselves. Now, when you exhale and bend the elbows, I know you know these are biceps curls, but make sure that you're actually using your biceps. All right, so we're going to move through a set of 10 to 12. What I don't want you to do is push from the upper back or push from under the armpit or the shoulder blade. I want you to genuinely squeeze the muscles in your upper arms in the front to bend your elbows without triggering the shoulder blades in back or the neck. Heavens no. 5 more. But also keeping the openness across the collarbones so we haven't collapsed in the chest or lost the integrity of neutral shoulder position. And by that, I mean the literal connection into core. Last one. And then release. Bring the inside of the elbows inward. Right? And we're going to pull back through the shoulders. Often we do this with a flex band. And if that's your preference, you can still find your flex band and put it around the thighs and do this. I want to keep the dumbbells in my hand this morning, just so I have that sense of down through the bottom of the shoulder blades. We'll exhale and take the arms back until we feel something in the triceps. So if we're keeping the elbows straight, at a certain point, your triceps will be required to work, right? As the arms go behind you. So working the triceps, we exhale, pull back. Moving toward the end of where we can go, we'll feel not only the triceps, but in this instance, a little bit more through the bottom of the ribs, front and back. Ooh, try not to do what I was doing. Don't let your head slide forward. Keep the base of the skull lifting and drawing back without pushing the arms from the front of the shoulders or the chest. Harder than it looks, or it seems like it should be. 4 more, please. Last 2. Connect into the ground as you balance the hips and the legs. And release. Okay. Shake out your arms. Put your ball off to the side if you're using it. And we're going to do our good mornings with the swing of the arms and gravity as we stabilize the shoulder assembly. A little bit of a bend in the knees to help fully articulate the hips is perfectly fine, especially since we're going to be keeping a neutral posture. Prepare with an exhale. Feel that long pull through the hips, through the spine. And then on the inhale, hinge from the hips. You can allow softness in the knees. Allow also the arms to hang forward. On the exhale, push through the length of your legs and your hips. Come fully upright and feel the work of the triceps as the chest opens. Inhale, hinge forward. Allow the knees to soften as you do that hinge. And then exhale. As your arms hang in gravity, feel how the changing position of everything else will direct the motion of the arms. And that's tricky to do, right? To stabilize your shoulders without trying to direct the arms. We have 8 of these, so with the next one, we're halfway through. Watch your head position. So if you see my head come out of position, avoid doing the same thing. I'm trying to. We're all works in progress. 3 more. Last 2. Last one. And then pause. Okay, we'll put the weights down for a little bit. And now in our forward bend, right, instead of moving the arms or allowing the arms to move as we stabilize the shoulders, now we're going to let the legs, in this case, just one at a time, because we have to stand on something as we stabilize the hip structure. Okay, so you can have yourself square and both hands on your surface if you like. I'm going to come a little forward just so I'm not kicking things behind me. We'll inhale and bend the knees, or allowing, I should say, the knees to bend in the way they need to accommodate the forward flexion of the hips and the neutral posture of the spine. Please stand on that right leg, right? We're starting on the right side today, and bring your left leg up, bending at the knee. I'd like you to exhale, round the spine, and pull the left knee in toward the chest. And we did this in a different orientation earlier. Inhale as the knee drops down, and exhale, extend through the hip and the spine, all long. Hold for your inhale. Exhale, round the spine, pulling the lifted knee forward, forehead toward the knee. Inhale, begin to open the spine, and then exhale, complete the extension of the hip. Continue 4 more times. Exhale. Inhale and exhale to complete the final extension. And then hold that as you breathe in, a chance to level halfway through. Exhale. Standing knee just adapts as necessary. Last 2. Bring yourself back up after completing 6. Shake out your standing leg. We go directly to the other side. Yeah. All righty. So make sure you've got space behind you. Stand for a moment and let the 2 sides balance. Of course, one leg is going to feel like it is pretty tired, perhaps, definitely worked. We're going to eventually make our little forward bend or tilt through the hips. Adapting is necessary through the knees. Now we're standing on the other leg, lifting, in this case, the right foot, if you're doing the same leg as I am, and pausing. All right, steady over your standing leg. We'll exhale and round the spine as we pull the lifted knee toward our forehead. Inhale, begin to release that. And then exhale, complete the full extension. Feel the sole of your lifted foot through the crown of the head. Hold, inhale, and then exhale, round. Both halves of the pelvis rolling under as the low spine flexes, leveling out, and then reaching through the ends as you finally extend. Inhale, hold. 4 more. Halfway through. Two more. And last one. and come on up. All right, shake out your leg. Okay. So continuing here, we've just got another thing to do, another challenge before we start to warm down or cool down. All right, so we were just dipping, right, in essence, in a small way. We're going to try and hold that inside leg back, which is why you might want the hand on the countertop as we dip in a large way. So keeping the line from the back leg to the crown of the head, exhale. Find your kegel, your big toe on the ground, and inhale, relate it to your hip. Now on your exhale, dip. And on your inhale, come up. Exhale, dip. Rotating everything around your standing hip. And inhale up, maintaining the various breath connections. Eight of these guys. Stay long through the back of the neck, base of the skull. And carry your shoulders and head with you. Three more. Long through right side of the waist. Square through your tailbone. Centered over the inner thigh and hip. Last one. Inhale up. Right. The leg you were standing on. Right. Just swing it around a little bit. Swing them both around. Okay. So you know exactly where we're going with this second side. Make sure you have space behind you. And a little balance assist is never a bad idea. When you're ready to go, we do start with that inside leg a little bit behind. And I should have mentioned this first side, you want to feel something going on in that glute that helps to keep the hip open and the connection of the back of the leg into the back of the rest of you. Have an exhale and an inhale right in place. Find your standing hip. And when you're ready to go, on your inhale, on your exhale, reference your inner thigh and hinge forward over it. On your inhale, think about your big toe and lift up, moving the pubic bones forward to that place. Exhale, dip forward. We do 8. Allow both halves of the pelvis to lift from behind and then to drop down as you come up. Exhaling, dipping forward, feel a stability between the pubic bones and the tailbone. Keep that as you inhale and come up. 5 more. 4. And 3. And 2. And last one. Come up just in time. Shake out your legs. We're going to do a little stretch for the legs and a little stretch for the arms and call it good. So we're going to begin just by bending into both legs again and doing what we did at the beginning, just rounding the spine. Only this time we stay here for a little bit, right? Our hands are on our lap, so we feel a nice connection between the shoulders and the legs below. And then between the ribs and the pelvis, get a deepening curve as you release through the lower back and behind the hips. So as you make this curve through the spine, don't do it by clamping your glutes together. Do it by gently contracting into the low abs and deepening that. Inhale here, feeling an equal release across both halves of the lower back, up the ribs into the neck and head. Inhale, deepen the bend of your legs, put weight in your feet, and then exhale, push off, roll up, and unfold. Stand on your right leg, and we're going to stretch that left quad. Quads, they're four, that's why they're called quads. You knew that. And as you hold the foot, do little ankle circles. Nothing hard, right? We're not going to do anything hard for the remainder of class. We did a lot of work. We want to let that settle. And then before releasing this lifted foot to the ground, we're going to cross it over and keep the legs closed. Return to that deep rounding of the spine, that deep stretch behind the hips, standing on the one leg. Breathe in, bending a little bit more deeply, and then breathe out. Push off the foot you're standing on, uncross, and we do the other side. So stand on the leg that was just lifted and bring the other one up and do a little quad stretch for a moment. Circling the ankle. Of course, moving your head and shoulders around a little bit. All of that is good. And then before you put the foot down, cross the leg over and bend deeply. Rounding the spine, stretching across the hips and low back, down under the legs. And then up you go. Good. Hold on to your countertop or bar with your left hand. We're going to be sort of facing that left hand. We're going to rotate or spin in space in place and start to turn the body away from the hand and open the shoulder. Now, if you've got very mobile shoulders, I suggest placing fingertips on the top or front of this arm bone so that you can make sure as you rotate that you're not popping the shoulder forward or the arm bone forward in the shoulder. And then stand wherever you are, square it off, orient over the feet, level the height of the shoulders. Have another breath in and out. And then begin to spin in place again as you turn toward the arm. And you're going to wrap yourself into it, right? Like you're doing swing dance or something like that. Wrapping into the arm. And stretching the outer shoulder between the shoulder blades. Here it's nice to nod the chin down. And maybe allow the upper back to round a little as we put space between the shoulder blades. Have a breath. And then very gently, without pulling from the shoulder, lengthen upward from your feet. And then go ahead and let the arm drop. We do the same thing for the right arm, or the one you weren't using. Square it off. And when you've got your feet, begin to spin away from the hand. Take a lot of care to maintain the placement of your upper arm bone in your shoulder, and to try not to hike one shoulder up into your neck. So that's another good reason for putting your hand here. as much as possible, orient the ribs over the hips and legs. I was cheating. And get an honest stretch through the muscles at the front of the shoulder. Have another breath in, and then you know where this goes. As we exhale, we start to reverse or turn in space and wrap ourselves into our arm, allowing the arm to curve around, trying once more to square off the ribs, the shoulders, and the hips, and feel the pleasant stretch behind the shoulder and through the shoulder blade, maybe nodding your head and rounding the upper spine forward a little bit to accentuate the stretch, but gently. Breathe in, standing on both of your legs. And then breathe out, rolling back up and unwinding your arm. We stand and we have the arms hanging by the sides. We're just finishing with 3 breaths here. Palms forward, soles of the feet flat to the ground, connected, lengthened above, but without strain or effort. We breathe in and we release breath. 2 more times. And last time. Let your eyes begin to gently focus and take in the room. And then exhale. And you guys, we're done this morning. Thanks for stopping by. I'll turn off the recording. I know that went a little long. Thanks for sticking around. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.